Hi there, Fiona Pearman and Kate Bora, joining you to continue our conversation about commitment and confidence. And this week it's all about what gets in the way of honouring our commitments and following through with discipline. And we know that commitment and discipline, they don't just fall apart randomly. They tend to fail for very predictable reasons because there's stuff going on that's quietly sabotaging even the people who feel the most capable. Most of us have a lot of stuff around the words, even as we think about commitment as a word, discipline. We've often got a lot of ideas that it's harsh, it's inflexible, there's going to be a lot of self sacrifice. And there's been a lot of social conditioning for us that rewards us being ever available, rewards us for being people pleasing, for doing all that self sacrifice. So our relationship with these words can undermine our commitment, undermine the discipline, boundaries, and agency that we would naturally have.
Yeah, when I think about commitment and discipline, I always think about what I'm going to miss out on. So if I'm going to say yes or make a commitment to something, I'm going to miss out on something else, which is absolutely true. I think when we think about our work, one of the most important pieces that we support clients to achieve is clarity. And so we know that when we're unclear, about what's important to us, then it is hard to make commitments. It is hard to, say no to things, even though maybe we feel like we want to say yes to them, because that is in service of us taking action in service of our goals. And so when we're unclear of what's important, just when we're unclear of our goals, it's really hard to follow through and be consistent. And so when you do have that clarity, when you are clear on why a commitment or a goal is important, it makes us easier to become our own best coach, a critical philosophy of our work, and to be able to say no to things in the moment, even though it might feel uncomfortable, so that we can say yes to the actions we need to take that are in service of actually achieving our goals.
Yeah, and I think this leads into the next piece, which is our bias or our tendency to overcommit. When everything's important, when we've got too much on the to-do list, we end up with scattered focus. We're often overwhelmed, we feel burnt out as a result. And the real issue here is the lack of prioritization. It's not actually discipline, we just haven't figured out what's most important for now. We also see another version of this is avoiding commitment or discipline because some of us are a bit addicted to the drama, the roller coaster of leaving things to the last minute, of that kind of relief and almost triumph of, I made it through despite the chaos. And this really undermines us. It undermines energy. It's not a great example for our teams, and it tends to make things quite disjointed and really undermine that team cohesion.
Yeah, an important piece to reflect on, and again, another big part of our work, clarity and fear, is that fear can absolutely get in the way of us making commitments, of taking the actions, having the discipline to follow through, to, achieve our goals. And this can sound like a loud inner critic, procrastination, overthinking, and can push us towards the safe things, the small things, the repetitive things, those tasks that we have certainty, that we know we can do really well, and away from maybe the harder things, the stretch things, the uncomfortable asks, some comfortable tasks that maybe we've got some fear around. What if I say yes to an opportunity and I screw it up, or I put my hat in the ring for a task, and I don't go so well, or I don't get the opportunity, and so fear can really keep us in that hesitation cycle and can be one of the critical things that means we really self-sabotage and talk ourselves away from some of the things that really have the capacity to expand our skill, our capability, and our confidence.
Yeah, and I think sitting alongside this is our lack of boundaries, those poor boundaries, not being able to hold them, and then the depleted capacity that comes with that. And this is again very consistently something we see. Often women are saying yes when they really need to or want to say no. They're picking up on other people's urgency, very often carrying the invisible load, both at home but also in the office, picking up the kind of more mundane tasks, doing the things even when their tank is already empty. And so they've really got down a pattern of this capacity issue where they're constantly saying yes when actually they need to hold boundaries. And I think sitting alongside that is this piece around we don't have the systems, the structure, and the accountability that's necessary. We know that the routines, the planning, the checkpoints that support us are really critical. If we don't create those structure, that scaffold, we will tend to often let things slide through. It just becomes too exhausting to do everything. And we know James Clear talks about this, Brené Brown refers to it in her book. We don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of the systems that we have. And so being conscious of what structure, what accountability, what ways in which I'm going to be disciplined to follow through, that's what gives us the impetus to keep going. And so knowing that will keep our commitments alive.
Yeah, I think there's that fail to plan, plan to fail. This one is really critical because without the structures, the habits, we leave everything to chance, right? We're left to how I feel in the moment. And in many moments throughout the day and the week, we aren't at our most resourced. And so we will retreat to the most comfortable or the safest thing. And that is not always the decision that is in service of our best future self or in service of us achieving our goals. And so what happens when we've got system, structure, habit is we take away some of the decision making, the thinking power. I don't need to think about if I'm going to go to the gym or if I'm going to say yes. I just know I'm going to say yes to those opportunities. And so all of a sudden, it's easier, right, for us to be able to move towards the activities, the outcomes that we need to take that will move us towards our goals. I think the other piece that is critical around accountability, and this is a core part of our behavior change philosophy within the Acts of Confidence program, is the leverage. We'll often let ourselves off the hook, but when we are committed to someone else, when someone else knows about our commitments, then we are more likely, out of integrity of our word, out of respect to that other individual, we are more likely, even when it feels uncomfortable, to take action to honor the commitment that we have made to someone else, even if the only person who is going to benefit from that is us.
Yeah, I think when you layer all of these pieces together, what we see is these words that we can have all this negative bias towards, but actually are the fuel for confidence. They actually create psychological freedom. When we've got commitment and when we follow through with discipline, we have more space, we have more freedom in our world because there's fewer decisions to make. We've already done the decision making. We've built the structures and the systems. We have more clarity. There's more calm. And the really exciting thing is there's more mental and emotional bandwidth because the decision part's done. And so we've actually got space to do the more exciting, more interesting, sometimes challenging, a little bit uncomfortable work, but that's where the growth happens.
We're going to leave it there. If you've enjoyed today's confidence conversation, we'd love to hear from you. If you know of anyone who'd benefit from today's conversation, we'd love for you to share that with anyone in your network. For more of these conversations, head over to our YouTube channel. Do us a favor, hit subscribe while you're there. You'll be notified whenever a new video is added. Literally hundreds of videos in various different playlists. Our confidence conversations for you to dig into to support you, no matter where you are, personally or professionally. And if and when you're ready to go deeper with your relationship with Core Confidence, we'd love to hear from you. Visit our website, coreconfidence.com.au. Thanks for tuning in today. Don't forget to hit subscribe on your YouTube channel for more insights on confidence, leadership, and complex work environments. We drop new videos regularly, and we'd love to share them with you.